How the Watchtower Society uses mind control. Characteristic number 4, emotional control. Manipulate and narrow the range of a person's feelings. Make the person feel that if there are ever any problems, it is always his fault, never the leader's or the group's fault. Excessive use of guilt. Identity guilt. Who you are, not living up to your potential, your family, your past, your affiliations, your thoughts, feelings, actions. Social guilt, historical guilt. And the Watchtower Society lives and breathes using characteristic number 4, excessive use of fear. Fear of thinking independently, fear of the outside world, fear of enemies, fear of losing one's salvation, fear of leaving the group or being shunned by the group, fear of disapproval. Let's hear from some of the members themselves. This is what some members, people that have managed to escape the Jehovah's Witnesses, wrote about their life as a Jehovah's Witness. Fear, fear, fear. Fear of parents, fear of worldlies, fear of persecution, fear of displeasing God, fear of apostates, fear of crowds, fear of separation, fear of disfellowshipping, fear of being alone, fear of Armageddon, fear of growing old, fear of death. I think it is absolutely dangerous for children. It dulls the mind, thus hindering capable people to very segmented and limited ways of thinking. The biggest con to me is suppression of discovery, thinking, behavior, down the list. Today, with the world of mankind in such deplorable condition and being threatened with destruction from so many angles, there are many students and investigators of these threats to human existence who express substantial doubts that mankind will be able to survive until the year 2000. Death and horror in concentrated form is mankind's portion since 1914. The Watchtower, 1951. 2 world wars, armed conflicts, famines, great earthquakes, pestilences, wave after wave of crime and violence. Human society is rapidly approaching a cataclysmic crisis. Watchtower, 1993. Critical times are here. Civil strife, ethnic wars, natural disasters, and other horrific events are commonplace. Watchtower Kingdom Ministry, 2005. Fear of losing one's salvation. Likewise, the greater Moses, Jesus Christ, is not the mediator between Jehovah God and all mankind. He is the mediator between his heavenly Father, Jehovah God, and the nation of spiritual Israel, which is limited to only 144,000 members. What the governing body has done here is they have removed Jesus Christ as mediator for the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they have actually placed themselves in that role, being that they claim to be the representative of the 144,000, and also claim that the 144,000 are actually the mediator for all of the remaining Jehovah's Witnesses. The governing body has, in effect, with this sentence, taken the role that only belongs to Jesus Christ. And while now the witness yet includes the invitation to come to Jehovah's Organization for Salvation, the time will no doubt come when the message takes on a harder tone, like a great war cry. That is why we must continue working at kingdom preaching, continue practicing right conduct, and do both with a healthy fear of falling short. Phobia indoctrination. Inculcating irrational fears about ever leaving the group or even questioning the leader's authority. The person under mind control cannot visualize a positive, fulfilled future without being in the group. No happiness or fulfillment outside of the group. If we really have faith, we will know that if it is wrong, he will straighten it out eventually. And we are far safer inside his organization, even with these minor difficulties, than we would be on the outside, where only chaos and destruction await us. Fear of the outside. But if we were to draw away from Jehovah's organization, there would be no place else to go for salvation and true joy. In fact, as a group, they are the most privileged, the most successful, and by far the happiest group on earth today. The Jehovah's Witnesses as a people are routinely amongst the most uneducated groups of any religions in the country. And they also have some of the lowest income and socioeconomic status of any groups in the country. Only 9% of Jehovah's Witnesses have a postgraduate degree. Why is this? If you are a young person, you also need to face the fact that you will never grow old in this present system of things. Why not? Because all the evidence in fulfillment of Bible prophecy indicates that this corrupt system is due to end in a few years. Therefore, as a young person, you will never fulfill any career that this system offers. If you are in high school and thinking about a college education, it means at least 4, perhaps even 6 or 8 more years to graduate into a specialized career. But where will this system of things be by that time? It will be well on the way towards its finish, if not actually gone. 1969. The Jehovah's Witness high school seniors of 1969 who took this advice and didn't go to college are now 61 years old. They have no career, they have no education, no degree, and no retirement. They are actually the happiest group of people on earth. From the 2008 Pew Forum on Religion Landscape in the United States, Jehovah's Witnesses have the lowest retention rate of any religion. Only 37% of all those who say they were raised as Jehovah's Witnesses still identify themselves as Jehovah's Witnesses. A full 63% of Jehovah's Witnesses leave the religion. That sounds like an awful lot of dissatisfied witnesses. Clearly, if they were happy, they would stay. Where could we turn if we would leave God's organization today? There is nowhere else. And then they cite John 6, 66 through 69. Furthermore, suppose a person was to separate himself from Jehovah's people. Where could he go? There is nowhere else to go. Let's take a look at this passage again. This is commonly referred to in their literature. Look at this quote. Where could we turn if we were to leave God's organization today? There is nowhere else. And then they cite the verse of John 6, 66 through 69. In reality, let's look at the Bible verse, John 6, 67. Therefore Jesus said to the 12, You do not want to go also, do you? Simon Peter answered him, Lord, whom shall we go away to? You have the sayings of everlasting life. So in reality, the Bible doesn't say, where else should we go? It says, to who else should we go? More in Phobia indoctrination. Terrible consequences will take place if you leave. For one thing, some of the apostate literature presents falsehoods by means of smooth talk and counterfeit words. What would you expect from the table of demons? Those who have continued to feed at Satan's spiritual table, the table of demons, will be forced to attend a literal meal. No, not as partakers, but as the main course to their destruction. Fear, fear, and more fear. With apostates earth-wide being destroyed, what reason can one have for confidence of life in paradise to follow? This statement is presented as if it were fact, with apostates earth-wide being destroyed. I don't see any apostates being destroyed. This is the same kind of techniques used by another high-control religion, the Worldwide Church of God. Here's what a person who managed to escape from the Worldwide Church of God had to say about his former church. The member is told that Herbert Armstrong is closer to God and has more of his Holy Spirit than anyone else, which is why he is the leader of the church. I had not looked into any of the doctrinal issues about the Worldwide Church of God. I had not read any literature from former members. If the Worldwide Church of God was the only true church, where else was there to go? Sound familiar? Why go elsewhere anyhow? And since God was totally in charge of the Worldwide Church of God, wouldn't he take care of everything in his time and in his own way? Whenever someone would leave the Worldwide Church of God, Mr. Armstrong declares them to be in the bonds of Satan. Leaving the church was considered the same as leaving God himself. Back to the Watchtower. Apostates are included among those who show their hatred of Jehovah by revolting against him. Apostasy is, in reality, a rebellion against Jehovah. A Christian must hate those who have inseparably attached themselves to the badness. Once again, leaving the organization is the same as leaving God himself. More phobia indoctrination, shunning of leave-takers, fear of being rejected by friends, peers, and family. Steve Hassan from Combating Cult Mind Control. Most importantly, people are told to avoid contact with ex-members or critics. Those who could provide the most information are the ones to be especially shunned. More of Steve Hassan. Does your group impose restrictions on communicating with former members? This is one of the most revealing sets of questions you can ask any cult member. Any legitimate organization would never discourage contact with former members. Satan was the first creature to turn apostate. Modern-day apostates display characteristics similar to those of the devil. Their mind may be poisoned by a critical attitude toward individuals in the congregations, Christian elders, or the governing body. Like their father, Satan, apostates target people of integrity. No wonder servants of Jehovah avoid all contact with them. Consider just one example of the good that can come when a family loyally upholds Jehovah's decree not to associate with disfellowshipped relatives. A young man had been disfellowshipped for over 10 years. At times he tried to involve himself in their activities, but to their credit, each member of the family was steadfast in not having any contact with him. After he was reinstated, he said that he always missed the association with his family, especially at night when he was alone. However, because he did not receive even the slightest communication from any of his family, the burning desire to be with them became one motivating factor in restoring his relationship with Jehovah. This person was brought back into the Jehovah's Witnesses, not because they loved Jehovah, not because they realized that the Watchtower's doctrines were correct. He was brought back into the organization through the emotional blackmail of stealing his family from him. Phobia indoctrination, D, never a legitimate reason to leave. From the group's perspective, people who leave are weak, undisciplined, unspiritual, worldly, brainwashed by family or counselor, or seduced by money, sex, rock and roll. All of these organizations will resort to name-calling of people that leave their group. The Watchtower. Well, apostates, that's anybody who leaves the Jehovah's Witnesses, well, apostates are mentally diseased. They seek to infect others with their disloyal teachings. Jehovah, the great physician, tells us to avoid contact with them. We know what he means, but are we determined to heed his warning in all respects? Being limited by the laws of the worldly nation in which we live, and also by the laws of God through Jesus Christ, we can take action against apostates only to a certain extent. That is, consistent with both sets of laws. The law of the land and God's law through Christ forbid us to kill apostates, even though they may be members of our own flesh and blood family relationship. Watchtower, 1952. A Christian must hate the person with whom the badness is inseparably linked. Watchtower, 1961. In an earlier video, I discussed this quote from the Watchtower, and it's worth reading again. They say that it is sufficient to read the Bible exclusively, either alone or in small groups at home. But, strangely, through such Bible reading, they have reverted right back to the apostate doctrines that commentaries by Christendom's clergy were teaching 100 years ago. This is an admission by the Watchtower Society that if you read the Bible not through the lens of the Watchtower, you discover that Christianity is correct in its interpretations of the Bible. They don't want people to read the Bible all by itself. Well, now let's hear from the Watchtower leadership themselves. In this recording, listen to the harsh, angry tone used by the speaker, and listen to the quiet, almost frightened tone used by the followers, as they are told it's dangerous to read the Bible without it first being filtered through the Watchtower leadership. Also notice the rapid-fire frequency with which the speaker uses one mind control technique after another.
Now the apostate says, well, you don't need the organization. You can be free. You say, what's the effect of the freedom promised by the apostates. You don't need people telling you what to do. You don't need people telling you how to read the Bible. You don't need...
In Isaiah 65, it mentioned that Jehovah's servants would eat and drink and rejoice, but the slaves of the world would go hungry, they'd go thirsty, and I enjoyed the way I put it, howl, because of the breakdown of spirit, and that's exactly what we see.
Good. So what do you get when you just read the Bible? That's a lot of times that's the thing that's used. Just read the Bible. You don't need someone to interpret it for you. You can just read the Bible. What do you get when you just read the Bible? Okay.
I was thinking we get our own interpretation of it.
Good. Keep going. What else do you get when you just read the Bible? Sister Rose? Sandy?
How many times have we heard people at stores say that it's very confusing?
So you get confused. All right, what else do you get for just reading the Bible? Brother Foreman?
I would say confused, because it takes searching.
Yeah. And as we talked about, when people just read the Bible, what do you get? Brother Birch?
You get Christendom.
Yes. That's what you get from just reading the Bible. You get 2 world wars, you get 54 million abortions a year, you get incest, you get rape, you get homosexuality, you get violence. That's what you get from just reading the Bible, because that's all that Christendom's done. And look at the mess they've got. The Pharisees just read the Bible and they killed Jesus. That's what you get from just reading the Bible. So that's the freedom that's offered. See, when they say, oh, no, you don't need anything else, anybody else. And like you said, is that what they're going to give us? Christendom? That's the offer that they make?